Welcome in, Manic and Chill. It is Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. Shane, we are 15 days away from the 2025 NFL drafts. Big plans. We're going to talk about some of the DD fantasy football and Ray GQ plans for the draft stream and the content that we're going to be putting out. But how you doing, my friend? Welcome into the show.
I am good, dude. I got a little bit of a cold. That's a little weird, but I don't think anyone cares about that. So I'm popping some Dayquil and whatever. It's making me feel loopy, but I'm good. I'm good. 15 days to the draft. We got big plans. I don't know if you wanted to talk about the how we're going to cover the draft. It's going to be a lot, man. This is definitely this channel, the Big Dogs channel. Those are the channels you're going to want to tune into.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to do basically wall-to-wall live coverage. So we're going to live stream on Ray's channel for the first 2 nights of the draft. After that, there's going to be live content on DDFFB along with videos on DDFFB. And then stuff that happens after the draft, we're probably going to do a mock. We're probably going to go over tiers. We're probably going to do some individual player videos. And then Sunday night, which is April 27th, we're going to do Destination Chill. Ray and I are going to come back and do Destination Chill. We're actually going to come back this Sunday. But that episode is going to be the marathon where we go through every player and talk through, sure, their landing spot, where they got drafted, but most importantly, their sentiment, Shane, their ADV. What do people think about these players now that they're in certain spots? They got this capital. They're in this situation. That's what we're going to talk about on that Sunday night. So from Thursday afternoon, we may even do a pre-NFL draft show all the way through to Sunday night and really up till Monday morning on Wake Up. It'll be wall-to-wall coverage. So make sure you're liked, subscribe to both channels. Hit us up if you have any feedback, but we're going to be here. So I'm excited for it. And check out everything going on the channel right now. You just dropped a Shane Says that followed up Manic and Chill from last week, talking about the dispersal strategy. You've actually made some trades where I have not.
All the trades. All the trades.
I've tried. I think you were probably a little more aggressive in sending out the initial offers. I was definitely more aggressive on the waivers. I think I picked up 12 backup quarterbacks.
Yes,
absolutely. That was my big move, was picking up Nick Mullins and Tyrod Taylor, and you know how it is.
But dude, I got to be honest, when I saw the waivers went through, I was like, shit, I forgot to put in waivers for a couple.
And then you looked at the players and you went, okay.
No, there were still two people that I liked. So, you know.
2 people. Oh, man. Well, yeah, Shane Says dropped. I'm in the middle of the War series. And then, like I mentioned, Destination Chill will be back this Sunday night. I believe we're going to be going 90 minutes. Just Ray and I getting on talking football. We're supposed to have new graphics, a new intro, all of that kind of stuff, Shane. So 7:30 Eastern this Sunday night on this channel. Ray and I doing Destination Chill. It'll probably be bi-weekly throughout the offseason. But with all that out of the way, we are here to talk about rookie draft archetypes and draft strategies. So drop your questions in the chat. We'll probably be able to get to some of them. Prefer to probably talk like some strategy stuff, Shane, because rookie drafts are coming up. Before we know it, it's going to be just our rookie draft barrage. And I'm still trying to figure out what we want to do for rookie drafts. Like, I want to have some sort of show. I don't know if that's Manic and Chill. I don't know if that's stuff inside our Discord where I almost want to just sit up on the stage or sit in a live channel and just help people with their on-the-clock decisions, because sometimes you can get caught up in the clock and what's on the board and you make bad decisions. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Maybe some ways to avoid that. But what are your initial thoughts? Like, are you usually good at being disciplined during rookie drafts, or do you get excited and trade in, try to get the players you're excited for?
Scott, you know me well enough. I definitely.
That's why I asked you the question.
Absolutely. I get overexcited. I'm like, oh, I can't believe such and such is here. I got to trade in. I will say that I generally do it with, I don't want to say middling assets, right? Because they're good enough to get me in the first round, but they're not core pieces. I'm generally not going to be like, all right, let me trade Malik Neighbors so I can get a first tier and, I don't know, some wide receiver tearing down from Malik Neighbors. I'm not going to do something that impetuous, that compulsive. I don't know what the word is, that impulsive. But I definitely will try to move into the drafts if I don't have any picks. I definitely will do that.
Any rules that you have set for yourself to make sure you stay disciplined? Just things that you're cognizant of, and then you tell yourself over and over, year after year, and then aren't great at following, that you're telling yourself again for this year?
No, and I've been better at following it this year. I am not giving up the following year's first round draft picks. I'm treating myself like an NBA team, right? You cannot trade 2 firsts in a row in the NBA. They don't let you do that because they know you will shoot yourself in the foot and you won't be able to recover. So I'm absolutely not doing that. And except for one deal, and we're in what, April? So this is pretty good, about 4 months, give or take. About 4 months, I've only made one deal where I've given up a 26 first that I can remember. There might have been more, but that's all I can really recall. But no, that's going to be my one truism, that, and maybe it's not a great idea to trade into the second or third rounds for wide receivers that are floating around there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is some different types of archetypes of players that don't normally get covered on shows like this. Like, if you want to hear about hit rates of elite running backs that go in the first round, or late first round picks in Superflex, if you get a quarterback that falls, check out the War Series that I'm doing. I kind of talk through those percentages, just kind of give you an idea of certain spots in your rookie draft, types of bets that you're making, historical expectations from a war perspective. But we're not going to cover that tonight. We're going to cover some different types of, I guess you would call, rookies. And we're going to put them in subsets of, I think maybe I have 5 that I'm thinking of. If you have any that you want to put them in the private chat, we can maybe cover them. I just want to talk through like some traps that, and maybe this is just me, but I think about things very much through the lens of just pure process. I try not to get stuck on the individual players. And I know individual players matter. And if you consume as much content as I do, you just hear it. Trying to think what pod it was I was listening to, but it was Under the Helmet. And Chad Parsons made a great point. He said, you listen to draft pods, all they do is talk positive about every player.
Yeah.
Every player is going to be good. Every comp for running backs, if they're not going to go in the first 3 rounds, is Bucky Irving, Kyron Williams. It's always the good players. You never really hear legitimate comps of that guy that just never quite made it. And maybe it was an injury, but what's your theory?
It's just not sexy to be like, oh, that player reminds me of James White. Like, it just doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't hit the same. Although,
but I actually think that's an example of somebody that people would use as a comp. Do you ever hear a comp to Joe Williams? Do you ever hear someone's film breaking them down to Joe Williams and go, that's my comp for this player? No, because people would go,
San Francisco.
Yeah, that was the 49ers. That was Shanahan's first running back pick. But you never hear the comp, even if it's really the comp that person thinks, you never hear it to somebody that people aren't going to know. They always pull from the success stories and go, oh yeah, I mean, how many running backs have you heard comp to Bucky Irving and Kyron Williams?
Every running back that's going to be drafted in the second round, not in the NFL draft, in our rookie drafts, is Bucky Irving. And
it's not just running backs. It's not just running backs. It's receivers. And let's pull the. Yeah. I've heard a ton of Terry McLaurin comps. You know what I mean? Like, okay, why? Because he was not a highly touted.
Yes,
he was a 3rd round pick. He was a 23-year-old rookie. So let's just slap the less than impressive prospect to Terry McLaurin and go, oh, yeah, that's a good comp.
Yeah, I did that the other night. I also used Christian Kirk, though. So I used Christian Kirk as a comp. But no, I get your point. Where we don't see a lot of comps, at least none that I can recall, like just thinking this through my Rolodex in my brain here. Quarterbacks. I feel like we don't see a lot of comps for quarterbacks. Like, I don't feel like a lot of times people are like, oh, he reminds me of such and such. Upside or not. Although I did see, and I don't remember who, someone comped Cam Ward's running style to Patrick Mahomes, where he's not super fast, but he's crafty, for lack of a better term. I think that's the word they used. Ooh.
Yeah, I was listening to, it might have been Daniel Jeremiah, and I hate to kind of put him on blast, not that he's listening to this or he'll care. No, it wasn't Daniel Jeremiah. It was John Ledyard. You know, John Ledyard, who used to write for Pro Football Network. Like, he's pretty prominent in the draft space, right? Mm-hmm. He comped Shedeur Sanders to Mitch Trubisky.
Oh.
Now, I think what he was trying to get at was maybe the fact that maybe one was overdrafted. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like the one trait that Mitch Trubisky had was he was like uber athletic for a quarterback. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But you know what I mean? It's just like you hear that and you go, wait a second. This is somebody I'm supposed to, because I'm ignorant to watching a quarterback or watching a player and go, I know exactly who they play like other than just what I see. But when I hear people that do this for a living in the draft space and all they're doing is putting together comps where it just doesn't make sense. And then you can't even figure out why. It's not like you compare the profiles. Like Mitch Trubisky was big and athletic, but had a lot of the traits that you would probably say Shedeur Sanders has, he doesn't have. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was weird.
I'm trying to think it through because stylistically, player wise, they are not similar, and even their draft path really isn't similar, right? I don't see where
it could be. It could be. The point is, you rarely hear. Now, part of the criticism was you don't hear a lot of people comping players to Mitch Trubisky or Zach Wilson because they failed. You know what I mean? It's like you don't want to be comped to those guys, but at the same time, it just didn't make sense. But anyway, I want to get some actionable takeaways of what to do in these rookie drafts coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Like 3 weeks, people are going to be on the clock constantly. And there's going to be certain players that get steamed up that we get excited for. You know what I mean? And how do you kind of limit some of these mistakes? So I want to talk about the first archetype. You know what it is, right? What is the one? And you see it all the time when we do mocks. People talk themselves into receivers based purely on where they landed. You know, they're going to get some opportunity because they went in the 3rd round to the Texans. So
I was going to say, are we saying exclusive and independent of draft capital? Like third round on landing spots.
We are going to talk the first thing. I could say day 2, but for filtering purpose, we're going to talk first about receivers that were not top 50 picks.
Okay.
So just receivers that forget about where they landed, their profile, what quarterback they're tied to, none of that. Who's on their depth chart? This is all independent of that. But I'm going back 10 years, Shane. So from 2015 to today, how many receivers have been drafted, pick 51 or later in a rookie draft? And I think I actually filtered it. Let me see if I filtered it by, from pick 51 till the end of round 5. So we're not even going to count round 6, round 7, UDFAs, right? We're talking like late day 2, early to mid day 3 receivers. How many receivers have been drafted in the last 10 years between pick 51 and we'll call it, I don't know, pick 175-ish, but it's really the end of round 5.
Okay, hold on. You know, I'm not great with math. I'm going to say it's over 200.
A little aggressive, but it's been 145 receivers.
That's it
in the last 10 years. So right there,
it's not as many.
That's what, 14 and a half a year.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that's typically a pretty popular place to draft receivers. And I don't have my war chart pulled up or my draft history chart. Let me actually pull it up and take a look at it. But there's 145 of them over the last decade. And then if you look at the average over the last 5 years in those rounds, so let's just call it even round 3 through 5, it's been pretty prominent that teams take receivers. Between round 3 and round 5, the average is about 13 receivers per class. And that's some of the good classes or some of the bad classes. And I think it actually factors into this year's class, Shane. We're going to see more receivers go in that range because there's still a demand for them in the NFL, right? Like there's still a huge demand for receivers in the NFL, but it's not a strong class. We don't anticipate there to be 8, 9, 10 receivers that go in the top 50. It might be half of that. So I do think a lot of people's quote unquote favorite receivers this year, and you know the names, Trey Harris, Alec Iamaner, Isaiah Bond, a lot of those guys are going to go into this range that we're talking about. So 145 of them over the last 10 years. Now I'm just going to look at their first 4 years. And that's probably giving them too much grace because, what did I say before? If you haven't hit in the first 4 years, like at what point are you pretty much, has your mind been made up? Hell, for you, it's after year 1, right? If you're not in like double figure points per game, you're pretty much dead to Shane. You agree?
It's quick. It's super quick. Yes.
So how many in that range have scored at least, we'll just call it 10 PPR points over that period? And this is, I'm going to actually make it a little lower than 10 per game just because we're talking a 4-year window. Let's lower that to 8 and just look at over that 4-year period. So that way, if they did good, like their first 2 years, I don't punish them by, not lasting or not doing it for 4 years. Because really what I'm interested in is you'd be fine if a guy had 12 points per game as a rookie, right? And then sucked because you probably had a window where people thought that guy was going to be really good. Would you agree?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely gave you a sell window on him.
So how many of that 145? And again, for people tuning in late, this is over the last 10 years, receivers drafted after pick 50 and before the end of round 5. How many in that range have scored at least 8 PPR points per game over that period of time? So we're not talking a big threshold here. We're just talking like enough to probably get to a second contract.
So I'm not great with percentages. So let me just work this out in my head. So it's 145.
Out of 145, yep.
So I'm going to go with, what would 20% of that be? 29?
You're close. You're close. It's actually 33 out of 145. So
do you know why I know that? Because how often do I dig into wide receiver data for rookie wide receivers? So I kind of have a baseline in my brain on that. But sorry.
No, I mean, you almost nailed it, 20%. You're at 33 out of 145. So you're just over 20%, but you're not quite to 25%. So let's just call it somewhere between 20 and 25%. Now, I can start giving you some of these names. And I just want to see your reaction to some of the names. Because if I told you there's something that you have 80% chance or more odds of being wrong, Shane, do you really want to make that bet? If it's just, you're not getting odds, like you're just making the pick. Do you know what I mean? You're drafting a player with a pick. As soon as you draft this player at the 209 or whatever, it's gone. There's no like odds that you're getting. You know what I mean? It's a 1-for-1 trade, but it's already a bad bet. Like we're talking 8 points per game is the threshold, and it's less than 25% success just off the top.
And 8 points per game is not even the threshold you want to hit as a rookie wide receiver to look for future production. So even if every player in that range, all 28 of them, I probably would have told you to sell off. Now, some of them you would have felt bad about doing that, but I'm thinking the majority of them, you would have been more than happy with moving off of those.
Well, let me ask you this, because I'm filtering for their career. Mm-hmm. Should I filter for just the first 2 years of their career instead of the first 4? What do you think is more accurate for what we're trying to draft for? Do you think the first 2 is better?
It's not the first 4, because do any of us play in 4-year windows?
No, I was just giving some players the benefit of the doubt if they missed a year because of injury, but I'm going to do the first 2 years and see what that changes.
Just think this through, right? So Treylon Burks, when did we give up on him? When did people officially give up on Treylon Burks? I think it was after his second year, right? Because that first year, people, and you've seen it, when I've talked about it, right? People will make excuses for that first year base plan. They just always do it. They'll just make an excuse, and it's easy to do that. You know what I mean? I understand why people do that. It's much harder to do that when someone's face planted 2 years in a row. It is, you know what I mean? Like you really have to sell yourself a tale on one, how that person's going to turn it around, and why it wasn't their fault that they didn't produce during those first 2 years. So I'll go 2.
Well, we cucked 5 more receivers off the list then, because now it's only 28 out of 145 that were drafted over that time period that averaged at least 8 points per game for the first 2 years. Now, what that did do is it did filter. I'm looking at this list. Pretty much everybody on this list survived into their second contract. Like they're still in the league. You know what I mean? If you're hitting 8 points per game or more in your first 2 years, you're probably somebody that's going to hang around for a little bit longer. But it doesn't mean well, I'm just going to give you some of the names. Like the ones at the top are obvious. Everybody in here can name the day. I hate saying day 3 because it's really late round 2. plus round 3. You know what I mean? That filters into this. But everybody can name the guys at the top of the list. See if you can just rip off a few of them that were not top 50 picks that you know have had really, really good careers. You can name a couple of them. Let's put them in the chat. You name a couple if you want, but I'm sure you'll be able to get maybe the top 5 to 10 pretty easy. I see Amon-Ra St. Brown. Garrison said Amon-Ra St. Brown in the chat. Correct. Amon-Ra is number 4 with 15 points per game for the first 2 years of his career.
Where was Terry McLaurin?
Terry McLaurin is number 6, 14.33 points per game for his career. Puka's at the very top. Puka Nacua at 18.04.
We're only looking at the first 2 years, so obviously Puka's in there.
First 2 years. Yep. First 2 years.
Oh, Nico Collins. But Nico Collins didn't hit that 8-point threshold. And Nico Collins is definitely a guy that I've talked about before. Like his rookie season was not good. No,
he doesn't hit it. But I think when we get into the discussion of why to draft these players, you will kind of understand why Nico Collins is truly an outlier, right? Because he came out of nowhere. Truly, he came out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there's just not a lot of players like that. But Puka, Amon-Ra,
Tyreek Hill. No, it was Adams.
Tyreek Hill. Yep. Tyreek Hill was a 5th round pick. He hit 14. He is number 5.
Oh, Steph Diggs.
Khalil Shakir does not qualify because this is his 3rd year. He does not qualify.
Right, so we're only looking at their first 2 years. Yeah,
first
Diggs.
2 years, correct. Stephon Diggs is there, number 10.
Yeah,
Terry McLaurin is number 6.
Mm-hmm. Someone said Deontay Johnson.
Deontay Johnson is number 11. I'll throw out some more names that we already know. Rashee Rice was not a top 50 pick. DK Metcalf was not a top 50 pick. AJ Brown was not a top 50 pick. Juju Smith-Schuster was not a top 50 pick.
That was a very good wide receiver class. There were some very good wide receivers that went in the, I guess, late 2nd round. I didn't realize it was the late 2nd round of that draft. Yeah.
Yep. Cooper Kupp. That was another one. Tank Dell technically qualifies. Kenny Golladay was another one. George Pickens was right outside of the top 50. But then really after Tank Dell, Kenny Golladay, Darnell Mooney's on there. Remember Darnell Mooney's 2nd year? He smashed. That took his average up above that number. But we've pretty much covered all of the good ones, right? When Deontay Johnson is number 11, Tank Dell is number 12, Darnell Mooney is number 14. Like, we're getting down to that is not just your average outcome. That is your average median outcome when you are removing the 80% that already were filtered out. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this just highlights like how hard it is to find Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 4th, Puka Nacua in the 5th. I mean, I think there's probably a little more signal with guys like AJ Brown and DK and Juju, like they were 2nd round picks, but still.
I would say that class, we knew those guys were going to be good, right? That was a pretty deep wide receiver class. I think that had something to do with it. But just apples to apples, if you look at this class, for instance, it's not really a deep wide receiver class. I don't know that I would feel the same way about a wide receiver that went in. I don't even know if we'll have that level of wide receiver that went in the AJ Brown and DK Metcalf ranges. And I believe the Eagles took JJ Arcega-Whiteside in that draft. I could be wrong.
And here are some recent examples of guys that, because they're probably fresh in a lot of the listeners' minds, of players that did it in the last 3 or 4 years. And just when I say this player's name, think of what they are today when you hear the name. Okay. There's only been, since 2020, there's only been 11 of them. And we already covered Amon-Ra, George Pickens, Tank Dell, Rashee Rice, and Puka Nacua. So there's only been 6 since 2020. And just think of some of these names, Shane. So when I give you the name Gabriel Davis, how do you feel about that one? Was there a window? Yes or no? Just answer yes or no.
Absolutely. Okay.
Was there a window? Is there still a window on Darnell Mooney?
I would say yes. Yes.
He's worth something, right?
Yeah,
you could probably get a pick for him. I don't know what, but you could get something for him, right?
Well, and there was a stretch during last season where you could have gotten you easily could have gotten a second for him.
And the key is, when was Darnell Mooney's peak? It was after that big year 2, right? So year 3, people liked him. And then Gabe Davis, same thing. Romeo Dobbs. So Romeo Dobbs, he's been in the league now 3 years. Was there really ever a window? There was a little one, right? Maybe on Romeo Dobbs.
Yep.
Michael Wilson. This will be his 3rd year. He's averaged 8.5 points per game for his career. Was there ever a window on Michael Wilson?
A little bit. I will say there was a little bit of a window on him.
Okay. And then the other 2 we didn't cover, Jalen McMillan. He's the guy that did it last year. And then the other one I didn't mention was Josh Downs.
Oh, and there was definitely a sale window on Jalen McMillan. There's still a sale window on Jalen McMillan. Although I haven't looked at his stock lately. I'm going to say that it probably dropped after Chris Godwin re-upped with the Bucks.
It did, but I mean, even the names I named in the last 5 years, the window came and went pretty quickly, right?
Right.
So if you just this data alone, you'd probably go, okay, like Jalen McMillan was an auto sell, regardless of anything else. If you just looked at this, forget about Chris Godwin re-signing, their offensive coordinator leaving, who they hired, all of that stuff. Like you could just filter by this data and go, okay, that's probably a pretty good signal to sell this player. I'm going to just read the rest of the list, then we'll talk about kind of how to approach this year's class, because there's going to be a lot of receivers that probably go in this range. Here's some names. People will appreciate some of these names from the past. D.D. Westbrook, 11 points per game for his first couple years of his career. Was a good player. Thought he was going to be a PPR monster, Shane.
Yeah.
Michael Gallup. Remember, he was the number 2 on Dallas for a very short period of time.
A very good season. He did.
Yep. Jamison Crowder, another guy was just a slot monster. I think he was a top 24 receiver in Dynasty for a year and a half-ish.
Oh, there was times, there are many comps, people saying he was the next Antonio Brown. They were incorrect, but those comps were out there.
DJ Chark did nothing as a rookie, had an amazing second year, which pumped up his average, but that was definitely an outlier season for DJ Chark. Hunter Renfrow, kind of the same thing as Jamison Crowder, just was good right away. And so he hit those thresholds, but kind of faded away. Really the only guys that have lasting power, that lasted you like multiple contracts and actually held value for, let's call it 5 years or more, Tyler Lockett and Chris Godwin. That's it. The non-elite guys. I mean, Tyreek and AJ Brown. I mean, those are outliers. When you're putting up 14 or more points per game, you've already anointed those guys as who cares where they were drafted, right?
I'll say this: as soon as a wide receiver hits 12 points per game as a rookie, I don't give a shit where they were drafted. Honestly, after they hit over, I got to look it up. It's like 9.9 or 10 points per game. It's one of those two. But once they hit that threshold, I can care less about where they're drafted, good or bad, right? Same thing if they have a poor rookie season. I'm also the only thing I appreciate about rookies that had poor seasons is if they had that high draft capital, then I can sell them for more than I can for a rookie that didn't have that draft capital and then had a poor season.
Yeah, I mean, and the only guys that were under like 10 points per game in the first 2 years that survived into like a second contract to where you had value with them when they were in their upper 20s was literally Chris Godwin and Tyler Lockett. That's it. So even if you're going to bet on McMillan for another year or two, like you just like his offense or whatever it is, like historically speaking, like he's probably not even going to survive and have the role he's going to have this year into his next deal. Like he's just an extreme outlier. Like Darnell Mooney is probably his best case outcome. And think about what that is,
Yeah, it's not great.
So let's talk about what to do with these guys, because people are going to buy in. I'm looking at mock draft database right now, which is it's just perfect, Shane. How many receivers, according to mock draft database, are going to be drafted in this range this year based on their current big board data? Take a guess. Put it in the chat if you have an answer.
Specific to that range.
Outside the top 50 and inside the top 170, 180-ish.
All right, hold on. Let me run through some names in my head. There's Jalen and Jaden. Jalen Knowles, Jaden Higgins. What's his name is going to go there? Isaiah Bond. I'm trying to think of wide receiver. Oh, Trey Harris obviously is going to go in that range.
Aya Manor.
Alec Aya Manor. That's 5, 6, 7, 8.
Gritty Jack Besh. He's going in there.
Yeah, I'm going to go with 9. 9 is going to be my guess.
And you're actually lower than I thought because we are at 16. If you count pick before pick 180, you're at 17 receivers.
Jesus.
So Ty Felton, Torrey Horton, Tez Johnson, Kyle Williams, Jalen Royals, Xavier Restrepo, Savion Williams. I mean, whether your opinions are high on these guys or not, there's going to be people that go, oh man, Jalen Knoll landed in this spot. I need to get him. You know what I mean? I need to spend the 205 on him. But
so
talk about the theory, because I just laid out the data for the last 15 minutes. Those are bad bets, but it doesn't mean don't draft them.
No, that means, it means you draft them. And as soon as you have a window to sell for any type of profit, you take it. Like literally any. I drafted him at 205. Someone's offering me a second next year and a third next year, or 2 seconds. You really want to get crazy with it. Or maybe you can get to a point where they're so good in their rookie season that you can get a first for them, right? I did talk about Jalen Knoll the other night on the podcast I was on, and I did mention, and I guess I should have even winnowed it down, that if he had third round capital, I would like him a lot less. But apparently I should like him a lot less if he has back half second round capital. But basically, you're drafting those dudes only so that you can move them later to other people that are going to buy into. Like, you should not be enamored with them at all, right? And this is where being player agnostic is probably a benefit, because you don't care about these players when you draft them. So you don't care if they succeed, to be quite honest with you, other than the fact that they're an asset that you can now move. And that's generally what I'll do with any rookie that I draft in the second round of rookie drafts, to be quite honest with you, or later. I'm usually just looking to move them for a profit. But specifically, these wide receivers, if you look at the data you just laid out, it's hard to say you're going to be the one that can pick out the outliers, right? Like, what commonality is there between those outliers? There's probably not a lot, because they're outliers. It's probably pretty random. So you should be looking to move those players, excuse me, once they have any spike in value.
Okay, but let's talk about the obvious ones, that because people will look back and go, oh well, because I'll be honest, I was sell Tank Dell for a second.
We both were.
It was even sell Puka for a second. Oh, he had another good week. Sell him for a first. Get rid of him. Like it was a sliding scale of.
Can we have a caveat?
No, but what's the caveat? Because I think people will follow this and go, oh, wait a second. Jalen Royals just had 15 targets in his first 3 games in each one. Should I still sell because he was a third round pick? Or
guess what? Then there's a caveat. So, because what did I say about Puka when he was blowing up? I said, "Did this dude setting records? Like he's
doing something no one's ever done. Right?
If it's never been done before, he is already an outlier." It was after like 3 weeks. I don't want to say you just knew, but you had enough evidence to go, you know what? It makes sense for me to hold on to this player, because even if he were to crash the next 2 weeks, right? 3 weeks, I probably could still move him for what I could after week 3. Maybe not a first, you know what I mean? I don't think anybody was buying for a first after 3 weeks, but that's the caveat to me. If a player is breaking records, doing things that, no one else has ever done, and it wasn't just rookie records, right? I believe it was, it might have been just rookie records, come to think of it, like the most targets ever over the first 3 weeks or whatever it was. Then you have to kind of take a look at the situation differently, right? At that point, you got to go, this is a record setter. I can't just look at the draft capital and do what I always do. And that's the thing. Like, you have to use your brain. Everything is not black and white. It's not always binary. Most of these players, 90% of these players, 95% of these players are not going to do things like Puka did. And it's going to be an easy call to go, you know what, let me move off of him. He's scoring 12 points per game. That's very good. 11 points per game, but that is not a record-setting season, right? After their rookie season, they scored 12 points per game. Go look at the list of players that have done that. There's a huge list of players that have done that ended up just being wide receiver 3s, wide receiver 4s, etc.
So I know we're kind of going a little long on receivers, but honestly, I think with this year's class, with how many running backs there's going to be drafted, people are still going to take the receivers, right? They're going to pick their shots. They're going to go, oh, this is just the 302. I'll take a shot on Jack Besh because why not? Yet, when I look at that, I go, well, why not you just hand me that 302 pick for free? Because you're very close to the odds of that with what you're going to do when you make a pick of a 4th round receiver or a 3rd round receiver with one of those picks. How do you determine who to pick, Shane? Because I would argue that the majority of these guys, the outcome is the holy shit, I flipped them for more than I paid for them, has nothing to do with their production.
No,
it could be based on a preseason highlight. It could be based on OTAs, where they're lining up. This rookie is lining up ahead of this veteran that everybody thought was going to start, and he's not. Like, it has nothing to do with their target share in the first 3 games. Like, you don't even want to get to the first 3 games, because with a lot of these guys, by the time you get to the first 3 games, it's already over.
They're already, yes. So you should be looking at players that the community wants to succeed, right? And you brought
Talk about that. How do you evaluate that? Landing spot, profile? I mean, how do you think about that?
Even before the draft, we know there's a certain, I don't want to say subset, there's a certain group of players that people just like or are going to like. Jack Besh being one, Cam Scattaboo being another. I think people have I don't want to say
people love Jalen Noel.
Yeah, people love Jalen Noel. Hi. Higgins is in that list as well. Not mine, but doesn't matter. Higgins, Noel, they're the same dude, basically. I know they play nothing like each other. I was going to say Savion Williams is another guy that probably fits in that mold. If you wanted to go to tight ends, you don't think so? Some people really like Savion Williams, man. Some people are really out.
No one with a game theory dynasty brain is attracted to Savion Williams. Mr. I'm building my real NFL team loves the thought of what I can do with them, but for fantasy, I haven't heard many positive takes for him.
Well,
anyway,
I'll say this, right? And you don't have to just crowdsource this in your brain. You can use tools, right? You can go over to Dynasty Daddy, look at the trending players, and you can see KTC, same thing. You can see the players that the community likes right now. And those are the players like I want to draft. Not because I think they're going to hit, but because I can move them. Like when I make a bet on a player and I'm just betting on production and it's not a player that the community likes, I have one out. That dude needs to produce. I get nothing out of it. When I draft a player that the community covets, I got 2 outs. He can produce and I got an out, or I can keep him if I so decide to, but I won't. Or I can trade him because the community covets him. I give myself multiple outs. You don't want to get stuck with dudes where you have 1 out. Someone, from a running back perspective, someone mentioned Tootin. Tootin's going to be a great one, right?
We'll get to running backs here in a second. I do want to talk about kind of how to approach the shotgun running back
just
strategy.
Real quick. I didn't make it up. I told you, Waldman loves some Savion. He's not the only one. There's definitely people out there that love Savion Williams.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the basic rules are you have to be likable. My goal with all of this data is I want to get rid of the receiver. If I take the plunge on a day 3 receiver or a late 2nd, 3rd round receiver, I need to already be able to craft the narrative and tell the story before we even get to the games. I have to have something in the profile, whether it was a Senior Bowl riser, data analytics darling, something where I can already say I'm holding, a king queen hand and I'm going into the pot. I already have a good asset on paper going in. Like literally the litmus test of if you get this guy 4 spots after their ADP, the league's going to go, "Ooh, that was a great pick." That, like, just something simple like that tells you, hey, I might have a likable player that my league may think twice on if something positive happens. After that, though, it almost has to be a good situation, Shane. I need to visualize a good situation, a good quarterback, a good offense. Like, if we get to the production stage, I need to be able to tell myself a story that there's going to be quick production and a quick roll. And we're talking lineup leagues. There's a totally different threshold of, why you would dump some of these guys in best ball leagues. But like for a lineup league, like a start 11 lineup league, I'm probably not going to draft the neutral likability receiver that lands on, I don't know, pick a spot that people don't like.
Philadelphia
Eagles. Perfect.
Yeah.
Already have good guys. People don't really love the passing offense. And we reflect that when we do mocks, right? Like, absolutely. Even if you love Jalen Noel, if he goes pick 64 to Philly, you're probably not taking that guy where another homer in your league will take him. You know what I mean?
How many mock drafts have we done where Emeka Egbuka is the 32nd pick overall and nobody wants to touch him? Absolutely nobody.
Yeah, or just the receivers that go to those certain toxic spots where you're just like, a receiver goes to the Steelers in the 3rd round. You're like, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Real quick, I just be more like Lamar because I was literally thinking this too. As soon as someone says they got sniped, I make a mental note of it, and that's perfect. That's what you should be doing, right? You literally, and some people are in a lot of leagues like Scott and me. So sometimes you could just it's as easy as opening up a Google Doc, having your league names on there, and
I'm not
popping a note
that.
on it.
And I know you're not doing that either.
Dude, you know how? Okay, you could take a screenshot. First of all, Google Pixel.
You just hope you see the chat. You don't clear your sleeper notifications because I get 50 of them a day.
Absolutely, I look at every one of them. But you can take a screenshot of that, and your Google Pixel, if you have a Google phone. I don't know if it's every every Android phone, but Pixels you have screenshots, and you can search through your screenshots. You can just hit search, and I can put like players liked, and it'll start pulling stuff up.
Well, we're 40 minutes in and we haven't really touched anything other than these receivers. But real quick, like, what do you do when it starts to become very clear that they're roster cloggers? I mean, someone mentioned Jermaine Burton in the chat earlier. Someone mentioned Roman Wilson in the chat. Like, if you have those guys, or if you have those guys halfway through the season where it's clear they're not busting out this year, you know what I mean? They're barely playing. They're definitely not going to hit these thresholds. What do you do in the moment? Like, because I have my answer, but I think there's still people out there going, oh, I'll stash Roman Wilson for this year. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, to me, he's not even worth a roster spot. If I could trade him for anything, and when I say anything, like the 412, like $6 fab dollars, you know what I mean? Like anything, the value is getting him off my team at this point.
So
how do you spot that before it becomes just you're stuck with them?
I mean, I guess you're looking at route participation, right? So I do the follow the volume. I'm looking at route participation. I'm looking at snaps, shares, things like that. So there's 2 ways to look at that, right? Like, is there someone that's on the field a lot, say like, for like 85% of the routes run, but they're getting no targets? That's probably a bad
Say
sign.
you're Javon Baker last year, didn't even play.
Yeah, did he? Yeah, that's easy. That's so easy to spot that.
If he hasn't played in 6 weeks,
right?
Why not, based on this data, are you not just giving him away? Why are you not trading for a $50 a fab?
Yeah.
Why don't people do that? Why do people hold? Why does Scott Connor still have 3 Javon Bakers on rosters, Shane? Why?
Oh, well, one, he hasn't even
laziness.
Had the nerve. Well, 1, laziness. 2, he hasn't even had the nerve to just send out the offer because he's like, I don't even want to do this. Like, I literally do not want to do this. So during the summer, or I don't know, sometime after the season, well, it wasn't in the summer, but right after the season, maybe, or maybe it was last summer. I don't remember. We had a morning drive on the way to work with me as part of the DD community. It's one of the things you get, right? The morning drive, me and Scott. Friday mornings or Monday mornings, or sometimes both during the season. Anyway, we were literally talking about this, right? We were talking about players like Roman Wilson, and we said trade them for any backup quarterback you could get. And at that point, it was Daniel Jones, and it might have been actually in season because Daniel Jones was still like looked at as a trash can. Definitely wasn't in the offseason after he signed with Indianapolis, but we were like, dude, just move him. So you know what I did? I got to work, and on my first break, I went ahead and every league that I had Roman Wilson in, I just sent out blind offers for backup quarterbacks, Jake Browning, Daniel Jones. There was a couple other ones in there. Just it might even been Snoop Huntley, but there was just a bunch of whatever backup quarterbacks that I could even foresee ever having a chance to play. I just sent the offer out, and you have to have the discipline to do that, right? Because it's not exciting to send that offer. Like, who's looking forward to be like, all right, who's making some Roman Wilson deals today? Me, baby. Who's making some Javon Baker deals? Me, baby. Like, no one shares those deals in the trade channel. You know what I mean? No one's putting those deals on Twitter. Like, look what I did.
Those are the grind deals that you do behind the scenes, that no one really cares about. And yeah, I think that's the takeaway from this is you're not always going to be right. People are going to talk themselves into drafting some of these guys that fit into this range. And many of them are going to get to the point during the season where you're going to go, man, I really wish I wouldn't have drafted those Isaiah Bond shares. He's the next guy that just lingers. And so it's not That's going to be one of my goals this year. If I invest in a couple of these, I'm going to be selective as to which ones after we see where they get drafted. But there is no shame in just going, okay, Shane, it's week 9. And maybe the deal doesn't even matter. I saw this comment that sometimes if you add these guys to deals, the other people want it even less because they don't even want the player.
Do you remember?
But sometimes it's the opposite. If you throw in, hey, I'm giving you a free Javon Baker plus a third for this backup quarterback that's starting this week. Like, they'd rather have the free player. But the benefit in that deal is you got rid of the player. You have an extra spot now to pick something else up.
So if you remember a couple weeks ago, it might have even been the last week, I don't really remember. But if you remember, I think it was a couple weeks ago, you sent an offer to me and I rejected it and literally just took out those players and like asked for like one less.
I sent you a deal that included Eric All and you just took him out.
I literally did not want Eric All. I didn't care.
And you didn't change the rest of the deal. No. You just took him out.
Someone's asking about Jalen Coker. Jalen Coker, 8.4 fantasy points per game. Where's my summary? I gotta find my summaries here. Here's what's interesting. We didn't go through this data, but if you filter for the guys that were after round 5, there's almost just as many hits because it just shows you how random the hits are. Now, there's not a lot of Pukas, Amon-Ra's, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to get the home run, you're probably not going to see that as a UDFA or a 7th rounder. But there's a lot of Jalen Cokers versus Michael Wilsons versus Jamison Crowders. You know what I mean? There's not a huge difference. So real quick on Jalen Coker. So I went back, I think it was 2020 to 2023 or 2022, because I wanted to give people 3 years to break out. Jalen Coker had 8.4 fantasy points per game. The range that he was in, 6.11 to about 9.79 fantasy points per game. 31 players fell into that range, or actually, 30. And there were 7 that went on to at least provide you one wide receiver 3 season.
Shane, we have the truther here. 23 shares at Jalen Coker. What's your advice?
I'm selling absolutely every one of them. Bro, you know
everyone? Every single one? Dude, you wouldn't hold on to like 1 or 2 just as a novelty?
No, because Jalen Coker doesn't matter to me. You know why? Because I'll get another Jalen Coker next year. And then another one the next year.
Do you even want another Jalen Coker?
No, but I'm going to accidentally get him. You know why? I'm going to draft some wide receiver in the first round of my rookie draft, and he's going to give me Jalen Coker numbers. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm like, all right, time to move that dude, and just keep doing that until you get the right one.
Yeah, and I think so here's the problem. We talked about this earlier in the Discord. You weren't in there, but we were in Heisman chat talking about it was during the Tyreek Hill news that broke, and we were trying to figure out ways where, assuming everybody in your league listens to stuff like this, right? Like, nobody's really probably coming for your 23 Jalen Coker shares going, dude, that guy's going to be a stud. Let me give you 2 seconds. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one's actually coming to you to probably get him. So there's some work you have to put in to sell. So I think the value is, sure, sell for any second or whatever the market price is. But even if you look up the market price, I don't even know what Jalen Coker's price is on Keep Trade Cut. I'm going to check it right now to see what
Not
it
a
is.
lot.
But like, even if you can get the market price, it's probably like a mid-third or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even if you can get the market price, you're not getting it in 23 leagues because there's going to be half those leagues where people just don't want to give up anything for him because of this data. Do you know what I mean? Like, they don't want to buy even for his market price because of what we're talking about.
It's also not just data though, right? It's also all right, well, I want the new shiny toy because the new shiny toy that I'm going to get in the 3rd round, let's just call it, I'm going to go back to Savion Williams because you hate him so much. But, Savion Williams just got drafted to the 49ers, and they said he's going to be the new Debo there. Oh, yeah, let me get him instead of Coker. But you know what I mean? There's going to be a lot of those narratives in the 3rd round, not that specific one, but there's going to be narratives that people will be able to tell themselves about the wide receivers you're drafting in those rounds.
His price is actually a late second. Now, I would guess that in most of those leagues, you're going to struggle to like spam to get a late second, right? But let's just assume a third of the leagues you can sell for a late second. But the other third of your leagues, all you can get is a third. So you have 23 shares. You're getting a second in 8 of them, okay? Or 7 of them because it makes it a square number. So now he has 16 Jalen Coker shares left, Shane. With those 16, if you could get a third in half of those leagues, would you just do it? Just walk away and take a third? Okay.
Yes.
So with the other 8 that you couldn't even get a third, what's the next move if your goal is to sell? Because I have a good answer to this that I think people don't think about. It's not go get a fourth. Maybe if your league values fab, like the certain format where fab's really valuable, a full set of fab could be worth more than a third. But the next best option is to trade for something that moves your roster forward, Shane. Like you were saying with the backup quarterbacks. Like, is a backup quarterback in your lineup in week 1? No. But what is more likely to give you some benefit down the road? You know what I mean? Backup quarterback, backup running back, a fourth in fab. Like, you have to really just say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get me something more flexible that I actually have a plan to use. But people don't do that. People are just like, oh, well, if I can't get a second, I'm just going to hold and hold. And then 5 years down the road, he's just a statistic in this data set and go, what happened to Gabe Davis, Shane? Oh, yeah. He's still here, but
yeah. And that's probably one of the worst feelings, right? Is when you had a window to sell and you didn't take it, because then you're just done with this asset, and what happens the next year? You're just cutting them quietly, and just going.
And
maybe I
you do this better than anybody, dude. Jalen Coker in the 209 for the 207. That's a win, right? Because you moved up 2 spots.
Hey, who did I trade? I traded Xavier Legette in the 304 for the 207 in the variance bowl league that we did, because moving up that round, baby.
Did you sell Jalen Coker in the 209 to get the 207 so you can draft a third round receiver and just repeat the cycle over again?
I mean, hopefully, you would hope, right? The hope is that you could use that second to do something else with it. But also, you're just like, hell, I'll take another shot. And if this dude hits 10 points per game, maybe I could sell him for a first.
Did you ever collect cans as a kid, Shane? Cans or bottles? Yeah.
No.
Okay. No. But if you did, that's the equivalent of like doing that just so you can buy a $1 scratch off. It gives you like a 1 in 1,000 chance of winning your money. But it's better than just having 3 random cans that are worth nothing.
So so same example. My kids, they buy Pokemon cards so that they can sell those Pokemon cards to go buy more Pokemon cards. It's just a never-ending cycle.
I'll tell you what, one of the smartest things that someone told me a while ago, because I used to collect a ton of sports cards, like just for 15 years, just ripping packs and boxes and cases and stuff. But technically, if you find someplace, now the key is finding a place that will take them, but you can actually itemize the cards at the minimum book value of each card, which is usually like 1 cent. So if I can donate 10,000 1-cent cards, I can actually count that as a chunk donation. Even though I didn't donate anything that's worth, $100, I can technically say that I donated. Like that type of thinking, I think, applies to these trades. So let's see. Well, we're 54 minutes in. We didn't cover anything other than receivers, which is apropos to us. But let's hit some questions, and maybe we can recycle this topic with some other types of players, maybe in the Discord.
Definitely. Gavin Emmons. And just before you let's not short sell that. Let's say, hey, if you have not joined the FFB community, then ddfantasyfootball.com. You can use promo code Manic and Chill, I believe. Is that our promo code?
Yes, you can use Manic and Chill.
Yeah.
Or I think it's Manic and Chill. Yep. It's in the description. Click on the description. It's just hit the link. Don't try to put in the code. Yes. Just hit the link if you haven't signed up. And if you're in there already, you can you can upgrade. The upgrade now works on the site. So if you have an account and you're already subscribed to like All Access, you can upgrade for 50% off. Like the next month is going to be the time to be in there with rookie drafts and the NFL draft. We're going to do a draft contest. Like this is, I hate to say sign up just for a month and try it, but like this is the month to probably do that.
I'll say, give it a month. I promise you will not want to leave. So there's that. So anyway, go make sure you sign up. access to the Discord community, which is huge, the War and Trinity tools, etc. All right. Gavin Emons. Hey guys, I got a 12-team start 10 Superflex PPR, no tight end premium. Trade Olave and 109 for AJ Brown. Team is highly valued and deep, but haven't cracked the top 3 yet. So he's doing the old tier up. He's using the 109 and Christopher Olave, who we have concerns about. I'm doing this deal. I think that's obvious. I don't know about you.
I mean, it's a start 10. There's no tight end premium, so the receivers are probably worth a little bit more if you're getting, difference-making production-ish from AJ Brown. Yeah, I mean, actually, this would be a perfect trade. Like, if you had AJ Brown in the league, we just did the dispersal, you would do this trade.
Absolutely.
The other way. So
no. Chris Olave would not count as an asset.
You wouldn't do this? If this is the best you got, you wouldn't sit on this deal?
I need a different wide receiver.
Interesting. Okay.
I would go back to that team and go, all right, who do they have in the Chris Olave range? Because, again, the names don't really
Next week on Manic and Chill, we'll filter for guys with concussions that scared dynasty managers off, and none of them have ever died on the field or retired.
Brandon Cooks is fine.
Devontae Adams is fine. Tua is fine. Every one of them that we've buried is good. Say
calling Tua fine is a pretty
He got through a season.
He did. It's pretty presumptuous. But look, I'm old enough to remember Altoon having to retire because of concussion, so maybe that's in my head. But anyway, the point being, I would take a player in the value of Chris Olave in the 109 for AJ Brown in the league that I'm in. But yes, I would do the deal going this way in this case.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of those where that's the only deal you're going to be able to upgrade, right? Like you're probably searching for tier ups, and there's just not going to be many available if that's all you're offering.
10 teams, start 9, Superflex, May, Stafford, Levis, Cook, Etienne, Chuba, B-Rob, Aaron Jones, Higgins, Rice, JSN, Cup, Diggs, Kirk, Ertz, and Njoku. 109 traded Dobbs and his 2nd and 3rd round picks for Higgins and a 27th third midseason. Think moving back on draft day. There probably was a part 2 of that, and I definitely did not get it. So we'll just go ahead and hide that comment while I go look for that. And you can
it looked good on the surface. I just don't know the context of it outside of that. So unfortunately,
I'm going
Shane, you definitely whiffed on start.
I mean, that was so long that I just assumed that was the whole question. I didn't realize that it was going to be a chapter 2, but that's my bad. Sorry about that, Sam.
Couple trades in there. I think we have maybe 3 more trades. Hit those real quick.
Yeah, real quick. There's no other message from Sam other than that. So good job, Sam. Yeah. Sorry. Mike L, 12 by 10, Superflex, PPR, half point tight end premium, Jaden, A-Rich, Brees, Tracy, AJ Brown, JSN, Jay, Hawk. Trade Brees, the 106, and a 26 first for Justin Jefferson.
I mean, the Brees market has been shattered over the last couple of days because he's apparently either going to get traded or they're going to draft a running back and he's just going to get completely nuked, or they're going to run a 6-way committee where he's not going to get any carries or catches, or it's all smoke, Shane, and he goes back to being a 18 opportunity a game running back. And
I feel like it's 100% all smoke. I have a feeling, and it's based off nothing than we've seen.
I think the role stuff is the role stuff is valid. He is a running back coming up for a contract, and I can see where it's like I don't want to give him 80% of the work because they do have 2 other decent running backs on the team. You know what I mean? But to say, oh, I'm going to get rid of him for, I'd rather have the RB5 of the class than him. Like, I think we're going a little too far. I mean, he's getting traded for 110, 111, 112. Like, I don't know.
So
is it good value getting him in this deal, though, cashing him in with those other 2 picks, or is it too much in a 12 by 10?
Yeah, so that said, it's just look at it that way. Let's just say the value, the equivalent, 110, 106, and a 26 first. If you take out the name.
Look at this roster, Shane. If this is all we have, do we really want to give up a 3-for-1 here?
No, because it's a super flex, and the second player named on this whole sheet is A-Rich. The second
there's only 8 players named
Tracy.
Total.
Right. The second running back named is Tracy. I'm not comfortable moving all those assets for Justin Jefferson when my second quarterback is A-Rich. I'm not in this situation. Yeah. I mean, if your wide receivers were absolutely stack, AJ Brown, JSN, that's pretty good. Zay, whatever is replaceable, and then Tracy. I can't make this deal. I can't do it. It's too much for me.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of getting credit for Breece Hall, but just looking at that roster, if you're only naming 8 assets, it's hard for me to justify giving up 3 of them for one player.
Oh, rookie pick trades. I love these. 12-team, Superflex, PPR, tight end premium. Start 10. He has the 101, 106, 111, and 112. And yet again, there's probably a second part that I didn't find, so thanks for playing. Here's a one. Josh K27, 1 quarterback, PPR, start 9. Chase Brown or the 109. It's a 1 quarterback league. 1 quarterback league, Scott.
I think this is fair value. Like, you're not getting one of the top 4 running backs, top 5 running backs probably for that pick. But I think you could look back at this deal and go, man, I wish I could have gotten a running back as good as Chase Brown with his situation. Or you're glad you just got rid of him for a first. Like, I can see both sides. Like, I think this is a fair trade. You've placed your chips on either side. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm fine with
in a
Chase
1
Brown
QB
here.
start 9. I'm guessing this league, if you're a starting running back, there's a premium value on having those guys in pocket versus having to draft them. Like, this is not the format where I'm pumped up to draft Luther Burden. You know what I mean?
At 108, you could legitimately be drafting the running back 6 of this class or the wide receiver.
If you wanted an RB, you're probably looking at maybe RB5 falls to you. But if it's a second round draft pick and it's a good spot, like, they're going to go before the wide receiver 2 or 3. You know what I mean?
Right. I might make this deal. I'd be more apt to make this deal if I had a plan for it afterwards. Like, all right, I'm also going to use this 108 and then use it with something else because it is so, it's only start 9.
That's a good point.
Can I use that 108 to then go get
like if you could move up 2 spots and secure yourself one of the top 4 backs and all you had to give up is like a second, you would do that to get the flexibility? Yep, I agree.
All right. I think there's one more trade in here. We got rid of that. You know what?
Dirty Birds, this one.
Rice and Kelsey or Garrett Wilson, 14-team, Superflex, start 9, PPR. Rice and Kelsey or Garrett Wilson. I am so perplexed as it comes to Rice. Kelsey almost doesn't matter in this deal, to be quite honest with you.
Take that back, though, because let's say you have a team. We talked about this earlier today with Tyreek. Like, everyone was thinking, oh, I'm just going to trade Tyreek for Stephon Diggs in a second. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to do that because they can see exactly what you're trying to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
But if you have let's say your starting tight end in this league is Jake Ferguson. Are you doing this deal? Like, if Kelsey would slide in as your starter, even for just 1 year, and even on his down year, he's given you
he's still a top
800 yards and 80 catches. Like,
that's
worth it because the receivers could be a coin flip. If Rice is healthy, it's a coin flip, don't you think?
If Rice is healthy, I think I want Rice. Maybe. I mean, either way, it's a coin flip because I can play both.
Now, if I have Jonnu Smith and David Njoku, I don't need Travis Kelsey in a non-premium. Like, that's where the asset doesn't help me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So that would be the driver of like, am I actually using Kelsey or is he now my second tight end? And I'm like, I don't want to flex Travis Kelsey on a weekly basis at this point in a non-premium. So.
No, absolutely not. All right, so we've got something to do in about 10 minutes now, Scott.
We do. It was a show where I thought we'd get through more, but I should have planned better that we were not going to get through 5 different players.
Yeah, I don't know if you met us.
When it takes me 20 minutes to compile the data, I probably should understand we're not going to get through that segment in like 10 minutes. So,
dude, I absolutely assume that we're not getting through half of what we want to get through most shows. So.
Well, maybe we'll do another one of these next week, and we'll talk about like running backs instead of receivers, or tight ends. Like, we can probably hit both of those next week, and we'll just do a 2 because I think this is. Hopefully, this helps people think about their draft strategy, right? Like, even if you like some of the receivers in this class, someone said it in here earlier. I might have hid the comment, but it was something about. Oh, here it is. It was Sean's comment. Receivers are going to get pushed up this year because people have chased receivers for 5 years. They are going to sell themselves on the second round Jalen Knoll to the landing spot you like. You know what I mean? They're just like people sold themselves on Jalen Polk last year because he was a second round to the Patriots, who had no other good receivers. Like, that's going to happen again. And hopefully this just sticks in the back of your mind with how to approach before you hit draft on a receiver in this range outside the top 50. Just think about this data. Just think about what your plan is before you hit draft. Doesn't mean don't take them, but just have a plan. And the plan's not, oh, I'm better at everybody else picking the Puka or the Amon-Ra, because that's one out of Puka and Amon-Ra were 2 out of 145, Shane. Yes. That's not good odds. I know.
And Puka is even more than that. I mean, ARSB is obviously close to elite, if not elite, but Puka is just in another stratosphere for what he's done in his first 2 years. But yep.
All right. Well, with that, we will get out of here. Real quick, forgot to say, roster reviews will be live on the website hopefully by next week on DD Fantasy. So this will be the last week that you have to see this. But if you want a roster review, mannequinshellreview@gmail.com. We'll hit you back immediately with the options. We can record a review of your team if you want to go through some of this stuff. I mean, we'll literally give you a full breakdown. I can't share the promo video just yet because we played it last week and YouTube did not like the music that we used. So it'll be up on the site. I'm sure we'll share it on social media. We'll share it in the Discord. We'll share it on the streams as soon as it's up on the website. But in the meantime, Manic and Chill Review at gmail.com. Like and subscribe. Tune in to all the other shows on the channel. And Shane, see you next week, my friend.
Yes, sir.